Hi, this is JB again here with Learning Brizy Page Builder. In the previous movie, we just had a basic introduction to how the different elements work in Brizy. And this morning, we're going to start looking at the blocks that are provided with Brizy and how their designers, the graphic designers and layout managers, whoever, have put them together. Sometimes some of them very interesting, something I wouldn't have done, but this is how you can come up with new ideas or how you get to understand the program better. I'm here already in my WordPress and I've already opened a new page, Deconstructing blocks number 2. And why I'm in this view at this moment is I just want to show you that, of course, there says Edit with Brizy, something that you also get with Elementor, other page builders. Just click on Edit with Brizy and it will immediately take you to the Brizy page builder. Before we start with analyzing the block, one thing that I want to show regarding the elements that we have inside Brizy. Again, before you can do anything, you need to have a block, and the only way to get a block is to click on this plus and then add a blank block. My default operating way is to go ahead and delete this one and start afresh. And now what I want to just quickly show you, and this seems to be the default setting for almost all the elements, is that if you take the text and you drag it in, one of the things that you will have to be aware of is that Brizy applies a margin setting by default. And often when you look at the blocks and you wonder why there's spacing between different blocks or elements, elements, not blocks, why the different space between elements are smaller or bigger, it's because they've made these adjustments. Now, what you do when you are in this text element and you want to have the things like margins and paddings, you first click here on this cog, which says settings, and then it will give you two very simple sliders, gap above and gap below, which is very useful. And then we're going to go to more settings. And when you click on the more settings, this is the part I want you to be aware of, is that you see there's a margin applied of 10 pixels at the top as well as at the bottom. And this is default for these elements. So whenever you load an element and you compare it maybe to something else somebody else has already done, then it is because there may be adjustments on the margins. I'm going to go ahead now and delete this entire block. And then we are going to start with looking at a block. We're going to start from the easier stuff and build it up, bring in more elements. And as the Pro version is due in 3-4 months, hopefully 2 months, we will have more features that we will be looking at. And of course, as the functionality of Brizy also increases over time. Right, so how do we get a block in here? Again, we click on the plus. Now, there are, just like in Elementor, you get a light version and a dark version. And you can note that the two are identical, except, of course, for the light and dark theme. If you look at this one, the first one here, you can see that it's got a dark background. We are in the dark now, and that our text is light, usually white. But if we go to the light one, you'll see that the text is dark, and the background has probably got a white overlay, or even as is. Because the dark one takes a few more steps, I will mostly be featuring the dark blocks so we can cover all those steps that are needed to get the block looking the way that the Brizy guys got it to look. Here you have categories. You've got all the famous categories: headers, call to action, gallery, and there's a little button at the bottom that pops up and tells you how many they have in that. Some of their sorting is actually very interesting. Things I would have thought are headers are not headers, and things that I thought maybe is news is a header. But yes, they are all here. And let's start then today by looking at a simpler version and how they go about constructing it, whereas we are going to be deconstructing it. I found one under call to action. So we're going to start with call to action, and we're going to start with this block up here. And it's very easy to get the block inside your page builder. You merely click on the plus, and that is pretty quick. Right. So before we do anything, let's have a quick analysis of what we see here. One, we see an image. There is a background image, so we need to have an image for our block. Now, how many elements do you see? Well, you may think you only see 4. You see those and this one and this one. But there are actually 6. This is where maybe my style is a little bit different than the guys from Brizy, but I like what they've done with it. There are 2 spacers there, yes. If you look over here, you see a spacer. They call it a spacer. And over here, another one. I would often use margins or padding just to give me that little bit of extra space. But I can see the value of adding a space instead of going and messing about with your elements, because especially when you go into responsive view, that's where things may get a little bit hicky. Right, and what do we have? How many elements? In fact, we have only got 3 different kinds of elements here. Headings, paragraphs, and text are all text elements. So this is a heading, and this is what, a paragraph, but they are all the text element. Very similar to what we get in other page builders, though in Elementor you will have like a title or a heading or a fancy title, fancy heading. Those are probably things that we might get in the future, but you can do anything that you want heading wise with the text element. And the element you are going to find over here where it says add elements, and that is the text element. This of course is a button, and button is number 2 on the list. And then these 2 that are spacers, they are over here, and they are called spacers. Right. So let's start from the beginning, and let's start with that image so that we can get our background right, and we can get the color scheme as well right, because it's clearly dark, and currently we are working not with a dark background. So we are going to start with our own block, and that is here, add a new block, and then add a blank block. And as I've mentioned to you before, Brizy gives us this default row with 2 columns inside. I'm going to go and delete it and have a fresh block. This is just a frame, and this plus, if you click on it, it will open the elements, allowing you to drag in elements, which also include row and column. Right, but first I want to go ahead and add this image. Now, if you go to the Brizy website, one of the features that you will see for the future in the Pro version is integration. I'm here on Brizy's website, and I've clicked on Pro. And here are the things that we are going to be seeing in the release of the Pro version. Yeehaw! Okay, third-party integration. This is the one I just quickly want to show you. If you click on Learn More, it will take you down to the third-party integrations. As I was going through this, I noticed here Unsplash. Now, for people who are a lot into graphic design, whether it is for website or e-magazines or publication, whatnot, Unsplash is a website that features high-quality photos, very good photos for free. So when I saw this and I saw this image, I just had the suspicion that they got this from Unsplash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us to Unsplash, and then from Unsplash, I'm going to see if we can find that image. If you look at the image here, you will see we have a briefcase or a suitcase, and we've got a plant there. So I found it, and I'll show you my workaround for this by typing in suitcase. Of course, I got many photos here, but I was looking for that specific briefcase, and there, it caught my eye. As I went down, though, I didn't find this specific photo, so I could have used this, but I took a gamble, and I thought it would be the same photographer that had taken this photo would have also taken similar photos with the plant and the briefcase. I don't think it's a suitcase, right? Briefcase. So I clicked on him, Olo Eletu, and it took us to his page, and lo and behold, there is the picture I was looking for. And you can download it here for free. High quality, high resolution, excellent stuff, Unsplash. And with the Pro version, what I've just done by going to the website, in the future, this will be integrated directly inside Brizy. You will be able to access these images from within Brizy. That is just awesome. Right, let's go back to our page, and we are going to add this image to our block. I've already downloaded it, so I'm not going to download it again. And how do we add it to our block? Here is our block. Here is our block slider or icon slider on the right. When you click on it and you go over here, it says background. All right. And I'm going to just go to image and upload it. Now I already have it there, but I'm going to delete it and I'll show you in a short while. I just want to go through the steps again. I'm dragging in the image that I've downloaded. And the reason why I want to show you what I'm doing is because this is a mistake that a lot of us make, especially noobs. I remember my first website, it took minutes to load, and I only figured out much later that a 6 megabyte photo on a website is never a good idea, especially if you've got 10 or 12 of them on the same page. Now, this image that I have downloaded from Unsplash, this one, when you download it, it gets to about 1.57 megabyte. And here, WordPress tells us it's 2 megabyte. And you can see it's just way too big for what we need. In the past, I used to adjust my photos in Photoshop, but Photoshop can be a real headache. And then by happenstance, one day I did it inside WordPress, and I found actually that WordPress does a very good job. You may have your way, there's many online tools that you can use, but I really found that WordPress does a very good job at giving me very small size photo and keeping a high quality image that is still usable. And the way you do that is by clicking on Edit Image, and from here it's going to open a new window pane where it will open the Edit menu window. All I'm going to do over here on the scale image, I'm going to give it a resolution of 1920, and for some reason it will go to 1921. I'm not going to be concerned about that. I can make it smaller if I want to, but let's see how much I can get out of it. And then I'm going to click Scale. And now it will scale the image down to those dimensions I have given them. It is important though that you still need to click Update here. You've only scaled it, but I believe you haven't updated it yet. You see it's still saying 2 megabytes there. So you click on the Update. And wow, 169 kilobyte, and the image still looks great. So yes, that's how you do it inside WordPress, and I found that this has worked quite well for me. Now let's go back to the page where we wanted to add it, and this window is still open. If you now select it, it still says 2 megabyte. Of course it's not 2 megabyte, so just to be on the safe side, I'm going to close it and I'm going to refresh this page because I'd rather be safe than sorry. And it's going to load it again. And now we go back to our block, click again on the slider icon, go again to background, image, and now if I click on it, there you see 169 kilobyte. Wow, that is just absolutely great. Good custom, of course, is to also adjust your titles with alternative text. I'm not going to do that now. We're going to select. If you hear strange sounds, my dogs are sighing and the cats are complaining, so bear with me, please. Right, so there is our image. Wow, nice. It's so nice to find the image and be able to copy it. Now, other page builders give us the opportunity to put overlays and colors over the text or over the image within that, you can call it background module or background element. In Brizy, though, it's a little bit strange because next to the background, you will see this one that says colors. And this is where we are going to be applying either a colored background or an overlay. This, if I press on any color here from the color picker at the bottom, it's going to give me a solid color. You can see that. So it's going to change our background color according to what the color picker chooses here. And let's go have a look at the original block. And you see it has chosen this one over here. And then they have reduced the opacity. And if you click on it, okay, well, I just increased it, but I found it to be around 95 95%. Very sensitive. If you click on it, it's going to move. Let's say it's 95%. And it is the first one on the color picker. So we go back to our block and we click again on color. We apply that one, which we've done, and we are going to reduce it to 95%. Wow, right? Just amazing. One thing I want to note is that people often make a mistake of, when they apply an overlay, that they just make it too transparent. They make it too light. They think, like, oh no, this is too dark. I cannot see the image. The purpose of a background image is that it is purely a filler. It is a contextual element. It creates a feeling. It is not the main part of that section or that block. And actually, you'll be surprised at how much you can see by still allowing only 5% of the image to come through. Right, so there we've gone. We've downloaded the image from Unsplash. We've resized it within WordPress. We've applied it, and we've put the overlay on it. Now let's go on to our elements. As you have seen that when you do load a new block, I'll show it to you again, you are going to get the row plus the columns. But Brizy's philosophy, it appears to me, is that if you are not going to be working in columns, if you don't need 2 or 3 columns, you don't need them, and you can just work directly with elements. So you see the column here has got this black frame, and then you have this gray icon here for your row. If we look at the top one, you will not see any columns. And even you think this may be a row, it's not a row. There is no icon over there. This is an element. So this is what you have to remember, that it is sort of the building blocks for Brizy, is that if you don't need columns, just work with the elements. So that is what we're going to do, and I'm just going to delete this one, is we're going to start with this text over there, and we get it over here from the add elements, and we drag it. Right, so what do we call this one? We're going to call it welcome. Welcome. And I'm typing in caps. I haven't seen any function yet that I can manipulate it into all caps. Maybe it's there. I'll look for it some more. But at this moment, I haven't found it yet. So I'm typing in caps. The next thing we are going to do is center it as it is centered. And this is the button for alignment. Be careful of the button next to it. It looks like an alignment, but it's a list. So if you click on it, it's going to give you a number. And if you click on it again, it's going to give you a bullet. And that's not what we want. We want it to be aligned. Alignment, you have to click until you get the position you want. So one click will give you center, right alignment, left alignment, back to center. Right, so let's have a look at what they've done with this one. Definitely they've made it blue. And we click on it. Okay, let's click off from the element so I can show you something that you have to be aware of. If you are hovering over this element, and you click anywhere in this element except on the text, that cursor will jump to the text because it knows it's a text element. And it will open your toolbar here at the top. This is important to understand because later when we work with icons, you will sometimes see it doesn't behave like that. So what I recommend is that whenever you want to edit something in an element holder, click on it. Don't be afraid to do that. Click on welcome, click on the text, click on the button. That is the best way to ensure that the toolbar pops up. So you can see the color. They've used the third color picker here. We're going to do that. And then over here, let's look at the font, Montserrat. And typography is an interesting thing that they've added. They've added this paragraph subtitle heading at the bottom. They have even button. So they have these pre-designed styles for the typography that you can use. So all we are going to do is we're going to do the same, apply it here. First, change the color to this lighter blue, and then we're going to change it to Montserrat and above title. What a nice one. And immediately you can see the two are the same. Now let's do the next one. We're going to drag in another element. And what I really like about this is these dark lines that you can see where you are going to be dropping them. Right, same thing. We have to center it, click in the text, and then align center. This is definitely a title, a heading. So let's see what they've done with it. Okay, it's white. And then for this again, Montserrat, heading 2. So let's click on it. Make sure it's white. That's white. And then title, Montserrat, heading 2. Right. Okay, let's just quickly change the text to about Brizy. Good. One thing though that you have to take into consideration is that I believe that the typography is not your HTML setting for your tagging, for your title. I'll show you what I mean. If you click again here on the top one, you will see we've put it on heading 2. If you go here to the settings button though, you will see it says HTML tag H2. You can actually apply a different tagging for it, even though you've applied a certain typography styling to it. And to show you that this doesn't happen by default, let's click on our block on the settings, and you will see it is still on P for paragraph. So if you do want this to be a heading 2 for search engines, then you need to change it over here to H2. It's an extra step. And you have to understand that the two are disconnected. The one is about styling, and the one is about where do you want it to be searched for. Right. Okay, I'm going to click off. And this is why I started this tutorial with telling you about the spacing. The moment you look at this, you can see there's far more space between these two elements than there is between these two. And the reason is, if I go to my settings, go to more settings, you will see that the bottom margin that is by default 10, they've reduced to 10 for the first one. And for the second text element, they have gone, and the top one, which is usually 10, they've reduced to 0. So we're going to be doing the same. Go to more settings, and then we are going to reduce the bottom margin to 10. You can drag the slider, but it's a little oversensitive. I got it that time. Otherwise, you can just click in there and type it. And then we're going to be doing the same about Brizy. Go to settings, more settings, and for the top margin, we're going to reduce that also to 10. Beautiful, looks like that. Next on our list is the spacer. Again, you just go over to add elements, grab the spacer, click and drag, and drop it there. Let's have a look. Remember, I told you have to click inside the element, and this one has got this toolbar. Let's click on the settings. There's only one slider. How many pixels? 30 pixels. So we go to our block, click on it, and I can decrease it to 30, or I can just type it in there. But there's also another nice feature, and I'm not going to get it, so I'm going to type 30 in it. Right, there we go. There's another nice feature. Once you click inside the spacer, you will notice that there is a little handle here at the bottom. So you can drag it. Wow, nice. This is something that I really like. You know, this is front-end editing the way we like it. Let's go back to that. The only thing, Brizy guys, I would like to see is when I do this, I would like to see a pop-up menu showing me the amount of pixels that I'm dragging so that I have an idea. If I want to have it at 30, how much I'm dragging it for. Right, let's just delete that and put in 30 again. Okay. Next is our next text element. And we grab our text again and we put it under the spacer. And we're going to center it. And this is our alignment. And I'm just going to copy the text here by clicking in it. Control A to select them all. Then Control C to copy them. And then here, Control A, Control V. Right on. But now we can immediately see that the size of that element frame is different than this one. And this is a styling decision that you have to make. Are you going into the element over here, more settings, and then adjust it over here with your margins or, you know, the padding? What are you going to be doing? But I want to show you what Brizy had done. They did not adjust this. They adjusted the block. So let's go up again to their block, click on the icon, and then we go to the settings. Now, we all know we get boxed and full width, and this is clearly a boxed view. But what they've also done is they have reduced the box to 60% of its width. So that is 100%. And once I drag it up to 100%, you see now it looks exactly like the one we've created. But we're going to take it down to the same thing that they have done. And why I cannot type 60 in here. Let me see. Aha, that doesn't work. Okay, so we have to drag it. Something we can report to Brizy guys. Drag it down to 60, and now I have to... There we go. So just remember, this is how the styling works for the box, for this box. And it's something that I usually don't always do. I usually play around with the margins. But after I've done this now a few times in Brizy, I actually like it quite a lot. Right, let's do it for ours. And we go to settings, and we drag it down to 60%. Great. Perfect. Next is another space element. I'm going to click in this just to show you it is exactly the same as the one at the top at 30 pixels. So no need to drag in an element again, which we just need to duplicate. So we are going to duplicate this one, click inside it, and then the second icon is duplicate. And we're going to duplicate it, and you have these two. We are used to other front-end builders to have some handle that you can drag it with. You go to the side, you grab the handle, and you drag it. In Brizy, no need for that. All you need to do is click and hold. So I'm going to click and hold in this spacer and then drag and let go. That's as easy as it can get. Click and hold, and that works for any of these elements. You just click and hold. You can drag them anywhere you want. Right. Finally, let's go for the button. Everybody, every website, every landing page needs a button. Add element, and button is number 2 here on the list. Let's first do the text. Inline editing, put it on caps, find out more. And I think even the font family is correct already. Let's have a look. What do they have here for the typography? It's on Montserrat, and they've put it on typography for button. Let's have a look here. Button Montserrat. Because we've dragged in the button, the typography already applied should be button. So now we only want to style it. 2 things, we need to change the color, and we want to have this hover effect for it. So we go to this little hand icon here, which is the button settings. There's many things here. You can change the size and the shape and the border, but here they have fill. So fill is basically, you don't need to use opacity or anything. You click on it and yep, the fill is gone. So we've got white text and we've got a white border. No, we have a blue border and we want that border white. So that means we need to go to colors. And then up here you see background, text, border. And we change it to white. Good. So at this moment, it looks 100% correct, except we know that if we hover over this one, we get this white state, and over this one, we get the blue state. Now, this took me days to figure out. So yes, you're welcome. You go to colors, and over here you see these 2 little flaps sticking out. Whenever you have a hover opportunity or a setting, you will find it here. And gray means grayed out, like inactive or not present. And the black one means the one you are currently working with. So the hover, if you want to change the settings for the hover, you need to click here. And now we are in hover mode. The only problem is that I wish maybe it could have switched so that I can view it in hover while I'm busy with it, but that's okay. So what we need is we need a white background with black text. So we go to background, make it white, and text, we make it black. Don't be fooled, this is not black. I have to drag it over there to get my 00000, and then I'm in black. And I can close out, and there we go. Perfect. Great. Just look at that. And even by just adding these elements, with the same sizes and the same margins and the same spacing, you can see that these two blocks are identical. It's a great way to learn Brizy, looking at the blocks and understanding them. I hope you found this very useful, and that the future videos you will learn more about how this great page builder and all its many opportunities.